Sandra all the time is here with the cold heart through. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, to call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you.
Good morning. These are your CMR News headlines for Thursday, November 7th. We begin this morning with the latest on Hurricane Raphael's impact across our islands. In a welcome development, authorities gave the all-clear signal yesterday morning at 11 a.m. for Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. Little Cayman, however, bore the brunt of Raphael's fury, suffering from downed power lines and several overturned vessels in its waters. We now go to Hazard Management Cayman Islands Director Danielle Coleman for the latest assessment.
Unfortunately, weather did not cooperate with us today, and we were unable to send the teams from Grand Cayman to the sister islands that we planned for to assist with damage assessments and relief and response activities. In Cayman Brac, the main coastal routes around the island are passable by passenger vehicles. There are, of course, a number of downed trees and branches. However, there's no obvious signs of damage to buildings. Most of the island's power has been restored, and I understand that North Side East and South Side East will be restored by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, there is more damage seen in Little Cayman, with weather still posing safety conditions that are detrimental for workers, and the restoration is being delayed as such. As soon as those clearances are in place, the crews will begin their tasks. Light poles were found broken on Guy Banks Road, and all three resorts, Little Cayman Beach Resort, Southern Cross, and Paradise Villas, along with marine vessels, were severely impacted. At this time, electric power and telecommunications are our top priority for restoration on the sister islands. We encourage residents to be aware of the surroundings, report down trees and lines to district administration, and be wary of still water and turn any containers over to avoid breeding of mosquitoes.
Meanwhile, our sister island of Cayman Brac emerged relatively unscathed from the storm. Residents who sought safety in storm shelters have now returned to their homes as crews work to restore power across the island. Turning now to Alex for an update from Cayman Airways.
In aviation news this morning, Cayman Airways has announced that ongoing poor weather conditions forced them to cancel several recovery and evacuation flights to our sister islands yesterday. These flights, originally scheduled for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, have been pushed to today, Thursday, weather permitting. The national flag carrier is personally reaching out to affected passengers to accommodate them on today's rescheduled flights. If you need to book travel on these routes, you can do so through CaymanAirways.com, your local travel agent, or by calling Cayman Airways Reservation Center. While the airline's regular jet service resumed yesterday, Cayman Airways Express flights to the sister islands are expected to restart their normal schedule today, provided weather conditions improve. The airline emphasizes its ongoing commitment to supporting our island's recovery in Rafael's aftermath, prioritizing the safe transport of evacuees and travelers.
After the all-clear was issued, businesses began reopening, and all schools are expected to reopen today.
This is Mark Ray, Director of Education Services, with an update on school operations for Thursday, 7th November 2024. Further to the issuance of an all-clear for Grand Cayman and the Sister Islands, the Ministry of Education has announced that all educational institutions will reopen on Thursday, 7th November 2024. Educational institutions include all early childhood care and education centres, nurseries, preschools and daycare, infant, primary and secondary schools, tutoring centres, technical and vocational institutions, colleges and universities. For further weather updates, visit caymanprepared.ky and the Cayman Islands government's official platforms.
Hurricane Rafael, which passed by our islands earlier this week, has now strengthened into a Category 3 storm and made a devastating impact in western Cuba. The hurricane slammed into Cuba's Artemisa region yesterday afternoon around 4 p.m., packing powerful winds of 115 miles per hour. The storm brought dangerous storm surges and triggered widespread flash flooding across the region. Prior to Rafael's arrival, Cuban officials had ordered residents to evacuate from the storm's path. The hurricane is now moving toward the Gulf of Mexico, and while Cuba's landmass may temporarily weaken the system, forecasters expect it to remain at hurricane strength as it enters the Gulf. Weather experts are closely monitoring Rafael's path, which could affect anywhere from Louisiana to northeastern Mexico in the coming days. We'll keep you updated as new information becomes available about its potential impact on the U.S.
Turning now to the devastating situation unfolding in Cuba, where Hurricane Rafael has dealt another severe blow to the nation's infrastructure. The powerful Category 3 storm has knocked out Cuba's entire electrical grid, plunging the country into darkness for the second time in less than 3 weeks. Cuban officials report their national power system went offline yesterday afternoon at 2:48, despite preventive measures to minimize storm-related failures. This comes as Rafael's winds, clocking in at 110 miles per hour with even stronger gusts, battered southwestern Cuba and the Isle of Youth. By early evening, the hurricane center was bearing down just 30 miles from Havana after making landfall in Artemisa province. The Miami-based National Hurricane Center warns of life-threatening storm surges and flash flooding across the region. This latest crisis hits Cuba while the nation is still reeling from Hurricane Oscar's recent devastation. That storm claimed 8 lives in Guantanamo province, left 2 people missing, and damaged 20,000 homes. Emergency response teams are now facing the daunting task of managing recovery efforts from both storms simultaneously.
In education news this morning, a veteran Caymanian educator has taken on a key leadership role in our schools. Dr. Richard Wildman has been appointed as Deputy Director of the Department of Education Services, where he'll oversee teaching and learning across the islands. Dr. Wildman brings over 30 years of educational experience to the position, including service as Senior School Improvement Officer and Principal of Clifton Hunter High School. Many parents may remember him from his time as Deputy Principal and Science Teacher at John Gray High School. His career has also taken him to Jamaica and Turks and Caicos. In his new role, which began last month, Dr. Wildman will lead initiatives in school improvement, STEM education, and professional development. He'll also oversee literacy and numeracy programs, along with testing services. Dr. Wildman's impressive academic credentials include a doctorate in administrator leadership from Walden University, a master's in public health from the University of Liverpool, and degrees from the University of the West Indies. He also holds several professional certifications in school leadership and counseling.
The Cayman Islands National Museum has appointed a new leader at its helm. Dr. Viral Pupai, a distinguished curator and cultural scholar, took up her new role as museum director earlier this week. Dr. Pupai comes to Cayman with impressive credentials, having previously served as director of the National Gallery of Jamaica, where she spearheaded several innovative cultural and educational programs. She makes history as the first museum director to also serve as curator, bringing extensive experience organizing major exhibitions throughout the Caribbean. Beyond her curatorial work, Dr. Pupai has established herself as a respected academic at the University of the West Indies and has authored numerous publications on Caribbean art and culture. Museum Board Deputy Chair Susan Arch Parsons says Dr. Pupai's vision aligns perfectly with the museum's mission to preserve and celebrate Cayman's unique heritage. Dr. Pupai began her tenure on Monday and is eager to engage with the Caymanian community in her new role.
Turning now to a personal health story from former Cayman Islands Governor Martin Roper, who is now sharing his recent battle with prostate cancer to raise awareness about the importance of early detection. Just 1 year after retiring from the British diplomatic service, Governor Roper received his diagnosis following routine PSA blood testing. Despite showing no symptoms, his family history, including his younger brother's diagnosis at age 52, prompted him to maintain regular screenings. The former governor underwent successful surgery at Hereford County Hospital in the UK on October 2nd. In his words, "I am lucky that it was caught early and that it hadn't spread beyond the prostate." He particularly commended the National Health Service staff for their exceptional care and compassion throughout his treatment. Governor Roper is now using his experience to encourage others, especially those in high-risk groups, to undergo regular prostate cancer screenings.
In the aftermath of Hurricane Raphael's devastating impact on the sister islands, relief efforts are now mobilizing. Caribbean Utilities Company has announced it's prepared to assist DART-owned Island Energy with power restoration efforts. Company representatives have already established contact with Island Energy to evaluate the extent of hurricane damage across the sister islands. The immediate focus is on Little Cayman, where support teams are awaiting clearance for inter-island travel. CUC crews stand ready to deploy as soon as transportation restrictions are lifted. This coordinated response demonstrates the ongoing commitment to rapid recovery following Hurricane Raphael's passage through our region.
As our community begins another busy day, we'll inform you of the stories that matter most. Follow us on social media and our WhatsApp news channel for real-time updates. Now back to Sandy Hill in the Cold Hard Truth studio to discuss the results of the recent STEP survey.
All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My apologies for the slight delay, having some technical issues this morning. My camera couldn't find me, so I had to just restart everything, honey. Chill. That's what your IT man does when he comes to your desk and he's like, I don't know what's going on. And you look at him, you say, well, I don't know either. This is like the go-to thing that you do. Just restart it all. And hopefully the little gremlins that are working inside the computer just disappear. What a hot mess. Technology. You got to love it. You got to love it. I tell you. All right. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday so far. We're in for a rough ride over the next 4 years. That's all I can tell you. I just literally saw a headline on TMZ that is shocking, but I am going to do my best to ignore as much of the foolishness that's going to happen in the US because we just don't have the time or energy, to be quite frank, to take this stuff on. We would literally have time. I'm just going to show you guys this one to let you know. He's not even sworn in yet. Just buckle your seatbelts, folks. That's all I can tell you. It is going to be a wild and crazy next 4 years. Someone was saying that they hope that it resets the resets America, because now it's going to go so far the other way. If Americans don't wake up, hold on, let me mute my messages here. If Americans don't wake up after this, then surely nothing will wake them up, right? And it's going to be a hell of an experience. And so it's going to let everybody know, everybody who's, voted for Donald Trump because they think he's going to fix your border issues and all these other things that he's promised. Well, he's not going to do any of that. And in fact, I was listening yesterday to, I can't remember what news it was, it might have been BBC or somebody, but anyway, they were saying that the last time he got in and he tried pulling this whole move about the Mexican border, one of the ways he wishes to control it is he wants to be able to tell the Mexicans that they better control it. And so, of course, they have a new female president. So there's some uncertainty about how she will respond, but undoubtedly he's going to go in there and say, oh, we're going to raise tariffs if, you don't do what I promised the American people that I would do. And so one of the interesting things about that is the United States and Mexico trade something like, I forget how many, it's into the billions of dollars. I think it's close to $1 trillion. So U.S. goods and services trade with Mexico total an estimated $855.1 billion in 2022. Exports were $362 billion and imports $493 billion. So needless to say, it's almost $1 trillion trade business between Mexico and the United States of America, including things like tequila. Now, y'all better pay attention, y'all who love to drink. So the interesting thing about this is that the last time he said it, Mexico was like, oh, go ahead and put your tariffs in place. Because all that's going to do is raise the cost of living for the Americans. Because look at how many of your goods actually come from us. So that's no threat to Mexico. They're like, oh, you want to add additional tariffs? Who are the first people that are going to feel it? Your own people. I mean, the logic of how he intends to fix the things that he promises y'all that he's going to fix, which he isn't going to fix. But, he's got a couple of tactics up his sleeve that he's going to try, is just really, really shocking. But stay tuned. It's interesting the amount of trade that happens between Mexico and the U.S. I actually didn't know that it was quite so much. Of course, China undoubtedly is at the top of that list, but Mexico has quite a significant amount of power as well, into the billions, hundreds of billions, like I said, at least almost $1 trillion. So there you go. So keep an eye on that situation, honey chill. Increasing your cost of living, I'm sure, was not at the top of your list. Yeah. Okay. And in fact, the Journal of Commerce just 18 hours ago said that the U.S.-Mexico trade is actually on the rise. And so Washington Post says Trump threatens to increase 100% tariffs on Mexico over the whole immigration issue. It is going to be a interesting 4 years. And all I can tell you is I'm so thankful that I do not currently live in the United States of America. I lived there for 15 years, and I kind of feel at times like I'm an American adjacent. Some of you have never lived in the States, and I see you so involved in U.S. politics that it makes me chuckle, because even when I lived there, I, as a non-American, tried to keep my distance from American politics as much as I possibly could. But I'm just happy I don't live there. I can just jump on the plane, put in my little Amazon order before I go to my mailbox, collect it, hit the mall, hit Cheesecake Factory. Well, Boston Market is gone. You guys hear about all the restaurants that are closing down, by the way? Wendy's closing 140 stores, restaurants. Who else is closing? There's a bunch of them in the restaurant industry. Now, we knew retail has been retracting for many, many years. Now, of course, the restaurants are also feeling the pinch there. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let me see here now. So, all right. So, yeah. So we will definitely keep an eye on world events. And if you think that these things don't impact all of us to some extent, then obviously it does. Okay. Okay. All right. So we do have some guests that are coming on, I think, in a little bit. We're going to talk to them, and then we'll have some open mic opportunities. Salvin says, have you heard of Remains in Mexico? What is Remains in Mexico? A movie? A person? Remains of a body? I don't know what that means. Gabby says, so if Wendy's closing in the US, would it be closing here on island? Gabby, I don't actually know how the franchises work. I'm assuming, like most things, they are individually owned. So, probably not. If the ones here are doing fine, then they'll continue to do so. TGIF, I saw that one last week as well. They actually have a number of about 50 restaurants across the US that are going to be closing also. So lots of Applebee's, I think, might be having some closing. I haven't seen a TGIF in a really long time, to be honest. But I did eat I think I ate at one when I was traveling to South Africa the other day. What airport was that? Was that Atlanta or Miami? It must have been, I can't remember. Oh God, that trip was such a whirlwind. I can't even remember. I think we had more of an overlay in Atlanta. So it was probably Atlanta. And there was one in the airport, and we actually had the opportunity to eat there. So Outback Steakhouse. Oh no, not the Outback. Oh man. Mod Pizza. I love me an Outback Steakhouse, man. When they didn't reopen here in Cayman, I was so upset. Boston Market, they're about done for, at least in all the areas of Miami that I can see. Somebody said there's one left. I haven't been able to find it, honey child. Red Lobster, they've been struggling. Tijuana Flats, I've never even heard of them. They've closed locations due to severe financial troubles, unpaid bills, landlord disputes, and even bankruptcy filings. Denny's. Oh, this was one that I was a little bit taken aback by. Mind you, I haven't been to Denny's in God knows umpteenth years, but still, it's like a nostalgic favorite. And they also facing inflated relation challenges, higher cost, and some 53 of their locations closed last year, and they're planning to close another 10 to 20 in this year in 2024. Let me see who else. Cracker Barrel. I've never been to a Cracker Barrel. I've always kind of looked at their thing and thought, it looks a little southern. It looks interesting, but I've never been to Cracker Barrel. There's certain things with the southern cuisine. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes it's a bit much. You know how they do like I think they probably had this at Denny's as well. They do the what's the thing with the gravy called? That kind of bread looking thing. I think it's like a breakfast item. Then they smother it in gravy. I mean, it looks interesting, but I've never been able to bring myself to actually eat it. Yeah. Applebee's, I mentioned. Boston Market. Oh my God. They're down to 27 stores from 300 locations. Last year, it says they're now down to 27. Oh my God. Same thing, alleged evictions, lawsuits, unpaid bills. In March, a federal judge nullified Boston Market's owner, Jay Pandea's personal bankruptcy bid due to a technical issue with the filing. Wow. So he can't file now. There's a 6-month ban in place where he can't file for bankruptcy protection for 6 months. That can definitely cause a problem because most of them file for bankruptcy protection because obviously they're trying to save some of their own assets. Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy in May with debt obligations exceeding $1 billion and cash reserves dwindled to less than $30 million. So they began shuttering some of their 93 locations. And y'all know that Red Lobster is a favorite for Caymanians. Like, it is one of those places. It's like a Walmart. When you go to Miami, one of the first places you're like, oh, where are we going to go to eat tonight? Red Lobster. Mod Pizza, I'm not familiar with them, but they're also closing stores. PDQ, which is a fast food chicken eatery. Never even heard of them, but they're in California. That's why they're starting to shutter up as well. Outback Steakhouse, oh man, shuttered 41 underperforming restaurants across its brand, which includes Carrabba's Italian Grill. Oh, I didn't know that was part of Outback. Bonefish Grill, Fleming's, and Outback Steakhouse. I don't like onions, but I sure love their blooming onions. It's one of the few onion dishes that I will eat. But yeah, there's one on Flagler that had closed. It was like in a plaza, and then they closed. And I thought, oh man, is that Outback on? But they moved up the street, brand new location, closer to the interstate. So just as you get off of whatever that interstate is, and you come around the corner, the right, it used to be Mall of America. So there's like a, what is the big retail store there? Not Sam's Club, but Costco, I think it is. There's a Costco there. And there's actually a new computer store that is open in that plaza as well. Of course, you guys know the last time we went to Miami, we had to go in that store. Marlon's like, if there's one stop I need to make, that's it. All right, we've got our guests, I think, that are open. So are open. They're here. They're open too. So we're going to bring them in and we're going to talk about some findings of the STEP survey, which a lot of you guys are familiar with. Everton says the reckoning is coming to our country. Well, sometimes you've got to go through a reckoning. Sometimes you have to. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my South Africa trip today. And one of the things our guide said, South Africa, we were Cape Town, Johannesburg, Soweto, Painesburg, we're all over the place. And our guide said one day that, the pendulum after apartheid has swung so far the other way. And someone said, I can't remember who he said, but he said, someone said, the only way that we're going to start to rebuild is everything has to burn to the ground. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that for when you think about that in terms of a country, because unfortunately with countries, when everything burns to the ground, that means you go so far down with everything failing that you can't just pick up tomorrow and be like, oh yes, here we are, let's rebuild everything. Like, it's not that easy. But for people in their mind to think that there has to be total destruction of everything that we value in a country to be able to hopefully rebuild and become better, that says a lot about your mindset. So, even as we talk about the STEP program here this morning, there are a lot of things that we can do proactively. Like, let's never think that we have to go all the way down to the bottom, even in terms of our health. Some people have that approach. It's like all or nothing. Like if I'm not in the gym, pumping weights and eating a super healthy, strict diet, I can't do anything at all. Well, you can do like small things. You might not have the perfect diet. You cheat here and there, but if you can stick to an 80-20 rule where 80% of the time you are, eating clean, doing the things that you need to do, getting in your exercise, and you got that little 20%, where you're not so great, go for it. I mean, nobody's perfect, right? It's better than just saying, oh, to heck with everything. Let's burn it to the ground. Let me be 600 pounds overweight instead of maybe 25 pounds and don't care and let myself go completely, because then it's much harder to recover from that extreme situation than it is from perhaps a more moderate position. Dr. Gent, good morning.
Good morning, Mom. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Is moderation the key when it comes to a lot of health concerns, you think?
It's not a bad word for it.
Yeah.
The other side of it is, I might disagree about some of the cheating, because the cheating in one day becomes cheating on 2 days, and
I know,
and things like that.
Because human beings, it's hard to control.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about getting good habit and sticking to good habit. And that particularly is one of the issues that we've got about eating. And when we get into the details of the STEP survey, it's going to be no surprise that one of the things that you'll hear me going on and on and on about people being overweight or obese. And whilst everybody loves a quick fix and thinks it's easy, I just need this surgery, that injection, whatever, that doesn't fix people's habit. And what you were saying about getting into those good habits is absolutely right. And yes, some of these other interventions can be helpful at times, but if you don't change habit, it's a complete waste.
Interesting. All right. Well, Dr. Gent, CMO for the Cayman Islands, we're going to be talking about the STEP program. We also have Ms. Rachel Corbett, who's the island's first and only, I think, epidemiologist. So good morning to Ms. Rachel.
Hi, good morning, Sandy. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm going to ask you to just pivot that camera down just a little bit for me. I'd like to see more of you and less of the ceiling.
No worries.
Yeah, I know it's hard when it's sometimes like a laptop. You've got to kind of move the monitor, but no worries. So very, very interesting. We're going to talk about the results of the STEP survey. Now, for our listeners who may have missed the discussion of what the STEP survey is, can we just go ahead and perhaps recap what it was, when the survey started, and then we'll talk about some of the findings from it.
Yeah, of course. So this is a survey that we ran last summer. It's designed originally by the World Health Organization, and then when countries look to do it, you can then tailor parts to make it more specific to your local context, which is what we've done. And it looks at risk factors for non-communicable diseases. So we're thinking about things that we've already mentioned, obesity, but things like diabetes and hypertension, and then looking at the risk factors. So some of those being behavioral. So we asked questions in the survey about alcohol use, tobacco use, smoking, diet, exercise, those kind of things. But then we also took physical measurements of people. So we kind of would have their responses, but also some objective measures. So things like blood pressure, height, weight, blood glucose. And so it's done in a really standardized way, so we can compare the results that we get to other countries around the world. But it's also done in Cayman back in 2012. So we've then got another time point to compare to and see what's changed or what hasn't changed over the last decade.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. So I know you were constantly trying to encourage participants. Did you get enough of a survey sample size to have some meaningful data for us here today?
We did. I'm really, really pleased that we did. And thank you so much to everyone who took part and to yourselves and other media outlets that really helped us get the word out. So we had just under 2,000 participants in step 1 and step 2, and then just over 1,700 in step 3, which was that finger prick blood test that some people were unsure about doing, which is amazing. So we were able to, from that, generate estimates that are nationally representative, which is the aim of what we're trying to do here is to have national data to inform what we're doing.
Yeah. And so the, data collection, I always encourage people, whether it's the ESO, yourselves, there's lots of data that is being collected. And I think it's more of a regional and maybe sort of something with, small communities and islands that sometimes we were a bit apprehensive about participating in surveys. I encourage people because that, can help with policy development. It can help our governments know what's important, where they need to be spending money, where education needs to focus on different preventative efforts. I mean, there's just so much. And anytime I can participate in a survey, even if someone calls me and they're like, hey, we're doing a survey on this, I try to give them, as long as it's not too long, I try to give them, I participate and try to give as much of my time as possible because I know that how useful data can be. I'll give you an example. I mean, sometimes it's so simple, but yet so challenging. Right now, I would like to be able to talk about with the community the fact that we've had an increase in burglaries across the island, specifically targeting businesses. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, there's been an increase. But when I reach out to the RCAPS, they can't give me any meaningful data. They're like, oh, you have to wait until next year when we release our annual report with the 2024 figures. And I'm thinking, but how do I have the discussion now in real time if I don't have real time data? So, I'm glad to see that the Ministry of Health and Wellness has really put a lot into this program and the community stepped up to the plate and ultimately also participated. So shall we look now at some of your findings? Was there anything, Dr. Jen and Rachel, that really stood out for you that you thought, oh, this is surprising?
Well, I'll start and just say that the first thing that wasn't a surprise is, we go back to the obesity and overweight. That hasn't changed. And people might think that, oh, good, we put a cap on it, but we haven't. to be honest, sustaining 2/3 of our population being overweight or obese, you can't really get worse. And so that one, we guessed we were probably a bit stuck with that one, and that one was fine. We knew that. We know that's got to be a big area that we look at. Rachel will give you the stuff on diabetes and hypertension in a minute. Just give us a look onto that one, and but there's a few in there that I think we are going to be the emerging threats. Whereas Rachel will tell you about some of those that are here and present and really difficult. And that is, whilst we've got a really good track record on tobacco, and we've been slowly edging down the numbers who smoke, a few percentage more off in the last 10 years to just over 10% of people smoking, 3 times more men than women. Men are always stupider than women when it comes to bad habits, I'm afraid. So we've got a problem amongst the men that we need to get down, but we still need to get down on the women. But the replacement of cigarette smoking by other nicotine things, particularly nicotine vapes, is really worrying me here. And we're getting a rising trend in nicotine vape use. And I'm worried that what people have been hearing in the past is that vapes are safe. They're not. When we're talking about people who are established smokers and want help getting, kicking that habit, transferring onto nicotine vapes is safer, but not safe. And the really worrying trend, and this comes not so much from this survey, but also work done by the National Drugs Council and feedback from schools, is the rising trend of nicotine vape use in young people. And we're talking about school children particularly. And that's something we've got to tackle, because clearly the people who are marketing nicotine, and people whose sales of tobacco have fallen and replaced them by selling raw nicotine, they're selling pink sparkly disposables, in bubblegum flavor. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. Is this aimed at a 40-year-old man?
No, absolutely not.
We know what the target market is.
Yeah.
And we know that our children are being exploited. And that's how I look at it. They're being exploited. They're getting hooked on a substance to make a revenue stream for a business that really shouldn't exist. It has no purpose apart from that little niche medical purpose of managing addiction to tobacco products. So that's something I really want us to have in mind. Remember, nicotine is rapidly addictive. It's addictive within days of startage of use. So it's so dangerous. People think, oh, just a quick puff, just try it with my mates, and they're in. There's a proportion of people will find that incredibly difficult to give up. So I've just got that one in there, and I'll come back to some more issues about food and labeling and so on. But I think get into the diabetes and hypertension stuff with Rachel, because there's some very interesting stuff in there.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that is incredibly interesting. It's obviously, as you said, a very worrying trend. And we know a lot of parents are, of course, listening to the program today, perhaps even with children driving to school. And so these are conversations in terms of prevention and education that parents need to have with children, because, if you're not having the conversation with your kids, but they're surrounded by all of this marketing and, potentially peer pressure to take up vaping and stuff, they're going to do it, so you've got to make sure that the lines of communication are very, very open with your children about health and wellness, and educating them about the dangers of things that, again, are being marketed as safe and fun and pretty. And, it's not too far-fetched from a lot of the things that they did, even with cigarettes back in the day, where, they marketed cigarettes as something that was good for you, that was healthy, that kept you slim. And there was so much misinformation that was put out there. And I do think that it's interesting that almost every mall that you go into now, when you go overseas, you see vaping stores. It has become so incredibly normalized, and it feels like it kind of happened overnight from a marketing perspective. So these vape shops, everywhere. So Rachel, of course, smoking is, smoking anything is very preventable, but yet it contributes to the rising cost of healthcare because of the number of issues that it causes for people. It's always shocking to me when people who are smokers, who are, vapors, and they go in for like a surgical procedure and they don't even know the fact that you smoke puts you at higher risk during and after a surgical procedure, because it actually impacts the amount of oxygen that is in your body and how your body is able to heal. But it increases all sorts of other things, as do, our lack of motion, and also really, really poor diets. So Dr. Gent said he was kind of disappointed to see the numbers, the obesity numbers in this community. Although they remain stable, they shouldn't be anywhere near those numbers. So let's talk about that, and how that then impacts some of the other things that you're seeing in relation to diabetes and so on, high blood pressure.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Honey. So the obesity data is pretty much exactly where it was in 2012. When you combine together individuals who were either overweight or obese, this comes to 70% of the population, and that number was exactly the same. In 2012, the patterns also by men and women are also the same. So we see a significantly higher proportion of men being overweight than among women, but a significantly higher proportion among women being obese than men. So those patterns are still very much there. And something you were referring to earlier about, taking part in surveys and the important use of this data, the methodology that we use by going and sampling a random group of the population means that we were able to gather data from people who weren't necessarily in contact with healthcare services. And that's how doing a survey like this is different from when we get data from health facilities themselves. So when we looked at some of the data around diabetes and hypertension, we were able to see not just kind of the prevalence of who was affected by it. So we found, let's look at raised blood pressure, for example. We found that 30% of the population either had raised blood pressure or were taking medication for it. Among that group, 35% were undiagnosed. So they weren't aware of this. They hadn't been told by a healthcare professional that they had this.
Right.
And of the kind of original 30%, 50%, half of them were on treatment. So half aren't currently on treatment. And only 27% were on treatment that was effectively controlling their raised blood pressure. So it really shows where we've got kind of gaps in the care pathway, that we really are looking for people to be clearly, diagnosed and aware of their health status, but then able to access the treatment they need, which then is effectively working for them. So that was one of the really interesting findings, and really helpful for us to see, okay, where do we need to change our interventions? Where do we need to adjust our programs to make sure that we're reaching the right people? Where do we need to consider what the barriers are and to care along this pathway? How can we put things in place to ensure that the people that need the treatment are getting it? So I think that was one of the really valuable things that's come out of the survey, and that we're really going to be looking at in the ministry going forwards to see what can we do about this. And it was similar with diabetes. So I think it's 13% of those with raised blood sugar were undiagnosed. But what we found interesting was, among those that were diagnosed, people that were aware of it, we asked about a few different kind of monitoring things that we would expect them to have as part of their care. So one is being that they've had a foot examination, and one is about having an eye examination. And we found that half of those who were diagnosed had a foot examination. So this isn't necessarily even in the last year or so. So 50% of those who know they've got diabetes have never had a foot examination in relation to that diabetes. And it was a little bit better for the eye examination. I think 70% had ever had an examination. A bit lower looking at the last year or two.
Yes.
But again, it shows gaps where we would really be expecting people to be having those follow-on appointments to be sure that other complications don't develop, and things that really are preventable, that if we're managing their raised sugar appropriately, shouldn't lead to these further issues if they're having the checks and we're stopping those things developing.
Yes. And the bit about diabetes, that does make me wonder, because if someone knows that they're diabetic and their primary care physician isn't saying to them, we know the increased, sugar impacts these specific areas of the body more than others. So your eyesight, your feet, your ability, if you get a cut, to be able to heal properly. And that's why the feet are so important, because of the nature of, sometimes you get a cut on your foot and you don't even know that you've cut your foot. Like, there's so many. So it's interesting that maybe there's a lot of educational and communication gaps with physicians to their patients, where they're just writing a prescription, let's keep you on your metformin and whatever. And we're not having conversations about how diabetes will impact your body and the things that you need to do to make sure that you're checking in with other support, physicians and so forth, to just keep you as healthy as possible and get ahead of any potential issues that may be developing. That's really surprising.
There's also one other issue there that's hidden, and that is that we're interested in the group of people who've never been seen, and particularly they've been diagnosed but aren't getting care. Now, one of the fascinating facts that we came out with from this survey is the degree of poverty that is in the community. You could argue about where the cutoff is, but I would say that we've got about 20% of the population living in severe poverty, 40% in poverty which is impairing their ability to get care. Now, treating high blood pressure, treating diabetes is not actually expensive. There's a big bar though. There's a hill to climb of getting that diagnosis. And if we look at the way that a lot of doctors practice, they have in their minds this standard of care that they have when Okay, you've got high blood pressure. Let's establish that it really is. Let's do a 24-hour blood pressure. Let's make sure that we've got a whole series of bloods done to look at complications. Let's get a chest X-ray. Let's get an ECG. Everything else like that, which is nice. But in terms of population survival and benefit, it's not necessary. If you've put a sigmo cuff on somebody's arm and you've got clear hypertension, do a cheap dipstick urine to establish that there's no overt diabetes or and what the renal function is, and start them on treatment. Because what's happening with a lot of people, they're just looking at it, I can't afford to go to the doctor, or having there, they're going, I can't afford those investigations. So I know been told I've got high blood pressure, but I'm not going to do anything about it because I can't afford the care that's being demanded of me to get into a treatment program. I mean, treatment for high blood pressure, we estimate is, and we're not talking about, poor standard of care. We're talking about a good standard of care done to a good clinical protocol, good clinical pathway, is between 30 cents and 60 cents a day. I mean, it's not even worth collecting the prescription charge. But you've got to, we've got to get these medicines into people at the right time without fear of a cost burden that's going to take food off the table.
Right.
And so there is a group of people out there that we're not getting at. They're afraid of getting that care. And let's face it, when we have to pick up the pieces of somebody, say a diabetic, who then needs dialysis, a below-knee amputation, some stents in their coronary arteries, and believe me, I'm seeing those every single day. We failed, and suddenly we've committed somebody to a lifetime of a shorter residual lifetime and a disabled one, where we could have given them a much longer disease-free interval, and we're paying a huge burden of cost because we didn't prevent that disease in the first place. So we've got to do some very, very hard thinking. And one of the things we're really interested in is that the Pan American Health Organization has developed a system called HEARTS. And it's a very simple, low-cost diagnostic and treatment pathway, which is very successful. And they've also got another pathway that they've recently developed on diabetes. So we're in discussions with PAHO at the minute about how we might be able to introduce such a program into the Cayman Islands, because it's always the case that the poorest get the worst deal. So we've got to look at that. The people that we're letting down, the rich, the people with the top line insurance policies, they can get what they like. We don't have to worry about them. They'll demand the care. The people who can't demand the care, the silent voices, the people who have got real burdens of poverty, we've got to find a way of keeping them healthy.
Wow. It is really, really shocking. Even Faith and Hope says, wow. I mean, she's hearing stuff today here that is amazing and unfortunately not in a good way. When you were also talking about the blood pressure, and of course we know that that's referred to as the silent killer, because you can have blood pressure and high blood pressure and not know it. And it's things that can, cause strokes and other issues. A lot of people don't regularly monitor their blood pressure. Again, it's tied into if they're not going to those appointments, if they only do, an appointment once a year, and that's the only time that they're having a look at their blood pressure, that could be problematic. Are there things that people can do? Because when you talk about the level of poverty, that is shocking, and that obviously has a direct impact on healthcare. So what does that mean for people themselves saying, right, there are aspects of this that I can perhaps take control of for myself? So they've got their preventative once a year, which isn't enough insurance benefit, But in between that, are there other things that they can be doing? I mean, there are free blood pressure monitors in the grocery stores and the pharmacies that people can utilize. Their health fairs, Health City does them, the hospital does them, sometimes NPOs like Lions Club and so forth.
Yeah.
They'll do little health and community checks. Big shout out to the former Minister of Health and Wellness. One of the things that she was doing in the Prospect community is bringing the physicians and the doctors and the health checks into her community. So I think there are things that we can all do to facilitate and maybe bridge the gap for people who feel like, okay, it's not affordable for me to go out there and take preventative appointments or exams on my own.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of willing people doing lots of things. We maybe need to do things a bit more systematically.
Right.
And particularly, we need to think about how do we get to the people who aren't coming forward. A good example is when we put a health fair into a supermarket. That's sort of selecting for people who can afford to go to that supermarket and do that shopping. We've got to have something which I think is a bit more community based. And I say I'd love to get the chance to speak to people because I don't want to put them off doing what they're doing. They're doing a great job, but we need to leverage it towards the communities that aren't coming forward as easily. And once a year is not the way you deal with hypertension and diabetes. These are things that we need to be being seen by a health professional 4 times a year. Now, the new pharmacy law allows us to give prescribing rights for things like hypertension and diabetes to a range of clinical colleagues. So I'm wanting us to talk to nurse specialists, pharmacists, people who are working in the community about getting them into a network of people who will take responsibility for providing and supervising that care. And I think if we do that, we can reduce the cost burden of diagnosis. We can have better continuity of the, of review of care, and we can make sure that people are more compliant with the medicines and getting the right medicines. Because if it's once a year, for instance, and you prescribe a medicine, but people can't tolerate that medicine, then 10 months later, when they come see you again, they've not been treated for 10 months. That's useless. But having a system where you've got somebody, there's no or little cost associated with getting a more soon review, but getting a review every 3 months, and it's not ripping your insurance policy apart, or it's available if you're not insured. And some of these figures, I can't remember the figure, but Rachel will tell us there are a proportion of Caymanians without insurance. And so they don't feel that they've got any right unless they can put their hand in the pocket and pull some dollars out. They can't actually get that care. So there's a lot of things here about system, about practice, and about not letting cost escalation get in and not letting fee-driven behaviours drive out the care that people need.
Yeah, we found that to be 5% of the population that didn't have any health insurance. And when you compare that to some of the reports that come up from the Health Insurance Commission, I think that's the lower end of the range. They estimate it to be more like 8 to 10%. So yeah, it's around that point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're on mute, Sandy. I can't hear you. Maybe that's just me.
Yes, my apologies. Thank you so much. I was just saying, let's have a look at a few of the comments that are coming in. So Shaka Zulu says the wealth of a nation is intimately intertwined with the health of a nation. Just some food for thought. What is it you think, Dr. Gent? I mean, a lot of this has to do with culture as well. And I think we have to accept the impact of how we see the world and the things that we do based on our cultural perspective. So, a typical Caymanian plate, you look at it, we're full of carbs, very few vegetables. Like we might have a little sliver of a corner for vegetables. We love our carbs. We love the potato salad, the bread, the rice. We carb load. even more so than the meat sometimes. It's like
Yeah.
80% of the plate is carbs, a little bit of meat, and maybe a little, half a spoon
Yeah.
of veggies. And that's the diet that we're used to. That's what we like. And, that's what our bodies have become accustomed to. Our brains have become accustomed to that. So it is very, very difficult to change the way that people think about their eating, their habits, their health. And we look at other cultures, and I'll think of some of the Asian cultures where it's regular for them to get up as a community. We see seniors getting up, doing Tai Chi in the morning. They're stretching, they're doing exercises, and that's part of what is normalized in those communities. So how do we make the shift? And this is maybe $1 million question, but how do we make the shift from being who we are as Caymanians, as Caribbean people, to adopting what we know are healthier things as a whole, as a community?
Difficult. And one of the difficulties is when people do things individually. As anybody who's tried to lose a lot of weight will know, doing it on your own is difficult.
Yes.
Support groups and things can, help. And the best support group Caymanians have is their families. So it's not about an individual changing, it's about families changing. You sit there on that, been to church on a Sunday, the big family gathering, and you sit there with a plate that's big, and everybody else has got a plate that's big. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to change. Nice simple fact from the survey: the average number of portions of fruit and vegetables consumed is 1 portion a day, which is well away. And I know what Miss Webb has just put in that we can't afford.
Yes,
actually, it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's about sourcing from the right places and making the most of all of those. But I do understand that. But it's coming together as a group and changing perceptions, because it's one thing saying we can't afford the fruit and vegetables, but what else is going on the plate?
Right.
And that's not at no cost.
Yes.
And there is a cultural thing there. I mean, lovely lady in the brack telling me that when she put some vegetables on her father's plate, he turned around and gave the usual Caymanian response of, "Who do you think I am, a goat?" I mean, it's lovely, but it was interesting because that was across generations.
Yes.
That was being said, and we've got to change it. Portion size is really probably the single biggest contributor to obesity that we're seeing. The second thing would be the kinds of food that are being eaten. And in that respect, I think we all need to re-educate ourselves as to what it is we're eating. And I think that if the people who are selling us that food, the supermarkets, the fast food giants, everybody, he really cares about the population they're selling to. They need to think of themselves as public health organizations. The CARICOM food labeling system, for instance, it's great. There's a handbook there that tells you what it is you can and can't claim about the benefits of certain foodstuffs. It has a labeling system which is so clear that it is the best I've seen in the world. It's not overly detailed. It's big black octagons that says high salt, high fat, high sugar, whatever. You can't mistake it. And I'd love to see that, particularly as we import so much from America. And we do not need US food norms. The other thing I'd love to see is all the fast food franchises. You know who you are. And you gave a very good list of all kinds of them just before. I was listening before we started.
Yes.
There's a load of those fast food franchises. They know the calorie values of the foods that they are importing and selling. Simple. Put it on the menus so people can make rational choices. Good example, for instance, if people have a choice between something which is one flavor and a barbecue flavor, that barbecue flavoring can add hundreds of calories, and people just don't know that. So we've got to enable people to look after themselves. So please, the fast food people, you can do it. You don't need told to do it by law. We really don't want to do it by law. We want people, to be responsible wholesalers, and the doors are open for us to talk about these things and have a collaboration on behalf of ourselves. Because people who operate in those franchises, the people who operate and work in those supermarkets, everybody else, they've all got families. We're all in this together. And so helping us to, everybody to do better would be great.
It's interesting that you say that, because every time I travel to the US, I mean, obviously I look at menus in all restaurants and I see the caloric, and it is shocking, I find that for me, it actually does impact my decisions about what I'm going to eat. So when I go to Cheesecake Factory and I think, oh my God, I'm going to have an appetizer, I'm going to have a main course, I'm going to have a dessert. I've never been able to get to dessert at Cheesecake, first of all, because their portion sizes are so ridiculous. But when I look at that salad that I thought, oh, this is a healthy option, and then I see that's like 1,600 calories.
It's the sauce on top. It's the dressing.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. And then I go, okay, so they've got a smaller portion size available. They've got a light menu, so I can maybe cut it down to like half. And so sometimes I'll pick like 2 or 3 things from the sampler menu, as opposed to having one large dish that says like my entire caloric intake for the day at one meal. But it this concept of, okay, having the information there in your face and readily available helps you to make better decisions. And that is so true. Now, in the US, they've actually legislated where restaurants have to do that. Is that right? That's why they're doing it. I think that's where we're going to have to go here. No restaurant is going to voluntarily tell you what calories are in that sandwich that you're about to put in your mouth. And of course, the crazy thing is a lot of local restaurants have no idea. That plate of oxtail, who knows? What, depends on how much fat they put in and all these other things. So on the one hand, there will be food chains like, the Burger Kings and the Wendy's, whatever. They'll know because, their US franchise heads have that information. But all these other restaurants, they're not going to have a clue how to tell you how much you're getting of anything, really. So that's
we've got to be proportionate. I mean, the small restaurants aren't really contributing to the big calorie burden. Mm-hmm. It's the big calorie burden for it's all the big franchises. You named a few. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But they know, and it's I drive in to work, sort of just before 6 o'clock in the morning down West Bay, and I'm still seeing people queuing for for breakfast, and it's the same cars I see every day. So I know that the calorie burden is disproportionately between the big franchises. Then that we need to getting people aware of. They can do it, and it's simple. The small, particularly the family run place and so on. People go as a treat. It's not their everyday, and I really want to put a burden on them. But then again, if they want to, and they want to come forward, and I think you'll find that you're looking at places like the States and so on. There are exemptions for smaller, and certainly smaller. But I also know that there are people who do make a great effort, and they do work out the calories. There are ways of doing that through assessing your inputs to what goes into the portions of food, and it's impossible to do. And I have seen people who are just a single person place doing that, and I'm doing it well.
This is something we've been saying, health is wealth, but this is a collective responsibility across all of society. Obviously, individuals have responsibility for their own health, but what we're really looking at here is how can we help individuals make informed choices? How can we help them have that information to hand when they're making decisions? And this isn't something that the ministry alone can solve. This is something across government. This is something with the private sectors. Supermarkets can do a vegetable of the week that has a discounted price. There are loads of different elements here that we can pull in to help people to make those choices. It's also about looking at the community side. What more can we do through schools? How can we draw everyone in And so it's very much needs to be a collaborative approach and a responsibility across all sectors. And one of the recommendations we have put in the report is considering, lowering the tariffs prices of fruit and vegetables. We can't do that without consumer protection because the supermarkets will just put it back up. So some of these things aren't simple, but the conversations need to be started and need to be taken seriously, because also from the data we can see a third of the population have got 3 to 5 risk factors. So these are things like obesity, raised blood pressure, smoking, not doing exercise. And in the older age group, so those who are 45 to 69 years, that's nearly 50%. And so that's just showing you, the likelihood of developing disease is really high when you've got that combination of risk factors happening there. So we can't sit idly by. We've got to act.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about Gabby's point here. She says that, it's expensive to eat healthy fruits and vegetables. And Scott says, pound for pound, I would suggest that fruits and vegetables is far cheaper than meat. And that's true. I mean, have you checked the cost of oxtail recently, Gabby? It's not that cheap. And here is the thing about it as well. When we think about this, we're thinking very, very short term. So you're thinking of, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery store today and I'm going to buy some items, right? And you're not thinking about the actual cost, because if you say the cost of fruits and vegetables in this economy is so much, what's the cost of obesity? What's the cost of high blood pressure? What's the cost of heart disease? What's the medical cost and burden to yourselves in the entire country? Even if you were just looking at it from a financial perspective, put a price tag on that, and you'll see that eating healthier is definitely going to be cheaper in the long run for you in any event. And there are things that you can do. I mean, we have during COVID, my husband started a little garden, and we've been growing all kind of stuff in that garden. Trust me. So there are things that you can do. There's the little what do they call them? The little hydroponics or whatever, things that you can even grow inside your house. Like, you don't need big garden space. For those of you who live in apartments and so on, there are things that you can grow your own tomatoes. And, so it's easy, and we all do this, but it's easy to find excuses to not do the things you should be doing, right? So it's easy to say, oh, it's too expensive to buy fruits and vegetables. And when was the last time you actually thought about, the cost of that versus all the other things that you spend money on? Nails are expensive too, to put on, fake nails and to go get your hair and makeup done. And still people find the resources and the budget for that sort of thing. If you can't find it for your own health and wellness, hey, we got a problem.
I think also there's another thing there, Fanny, and that is that certainly things become cheaper when you're cooking in bulk, so cooking family and so on. But also when people start, I have people frequently saying to me, but it's so cheap to go to a particular fast food place. Look at the price of that ready meal, but that's not what they're buying.
Yeah,
they're buying 2 double cheeseburgers or a big bucket of stuff and so on. So the actual cost of what I see people paying for is very different than people saying, but it looks cheap. And the advertising of, at the cheapest possible price hides what we're doing. And I noticed that lovely one from Simple C. So basically we're supposed to cook like the English, no flavor.
With no flavor.
I can tell you, you've not been in the UK for a long time. I grew up there in the 60s, and I have to tell you, eating was everybody was thin because the meals were rubbish. And you packed out on bread, potatoes, anything, because it was cold, it was miserable, and so on. Cooking has changed completely, and there are lots of very, very good flavorings that don't have any calorie added to them. Simple things, I dress my salads with a little bit of oil and a bit of squeeze of lime or lemon. And there's very few calories added to that, but a lot of flavor in there. Yeah. There's a lot of very good flavorings you can add to. But I did love the dig at the English and being English.
Bland food. Thanks to your cultural diversity now, Simple C, it's tasting a lot better.
Friday evenings was tripe, pigs, cows' bellies, which I can't look at ever again.
And I mean, there's lots of most herbs and stuff that you get are actually they add a lot of flavor to the food, and it's not something that's going to be high on the caloric side at all. Everybody knows that. Yeah.
All of that can add a lot. Yeah.
So you just got to be creative, and it also means, by the way, that you don't have to add a lot of salt either. So a lot of people feel like, oh, I've got to put in all this salt in my food in order to make it tasty, and that simply isn't the case. Add all the other seasonings, because that's what adds the flavor, not the salt.
The salt. The other poison that we've imported from the States is the additional sugar, particularly out of interest. If you go to a supermarket or whatever, go and have a look at ready meals, tins of whatever, and so on, and look for the words contains high fructose corn syrup. I'd never ever come across this until I came to the Cayman Islands, and things are sweetened. I mean, a good example. I come from, unashamedly, I come from a European background, and bread made with sugar, I've never come across that. But every bread that I see or I taste or try, it's sweetened to a degree, which is ridiculous. And of course, then people have got trained to sweeter, saltier things, and that period of when you change habit over 4, 5, 6 weeks, it's quite remarkable. Then go back and try to eat something that has, that sort of. I'm being unfair on the Americans, I know, but there's always got to be, some baddie in a black hat somewhere, and they're just too useful for that. But adding sugar and salt to everything, regardless. I mean, I used to bake for the family, and bread is just, flour, water, and some shortening of some kind. Maybe a touch of salt, but nothing else. And so to see what we're getting is, it's insidious, and we've got to manage that.
Actually can't hear anyone through my system at all right now. It just started to go a bit robotic. So I'm assuming that everyone else can hear you, but I'm unable to do so, which is a little bit weird. But did we just drop out from the radio as well? I don't know. There's some very bizarre stuff going on today with our tech. But can we get some details then on where people, if they want some more details of what the survey found, can we get that information of where they can go to get the information?
Yeah, sure. So it's all going to be up on our website from the 1st of December. So this is www.gov.ky/steps. And there'll be a range of products there to look at. So there'll be kind of a full report if you like reading through something that's got more of a narrative and an explanation with it. There will be a fact sheet, which has like the key findings if you want something a little bit snappier and you can just kind of glance through what the key results are. There'll also be some infographics to show the data visually if you're more of a visual reader and processor. And then there will also be all of the full data tables. So if there's like a particular area of the survey that you're interested in, that you want to kind of delve into the data a bit more, they will all be provided, and you'll have the breakdown by men and women and by 2 different age groups, younger and older adults. So across those different products, you've got a lot of different options for how you want to engage in the results. And you can take a look and get more details there. There's loads of data that we've put together from this survey. We've shared some of the highlights today, but there's a lot more to dig into. So really hope that people can engage with that.
Well, thank you guys so much for this information. I hope that it is useful. And people, again, knowledge is power. And this is where you have to now step up to the plate, folks, and do your part. You have a responsibility. I think we all have a personal responsibility. I like that Scott talked about how he has done, some things to curtail his high blood pressure, his diabetes risk. He's talked about some personal changes that he's made. Changing that diet is critical. Getting sufficient sleep and exercise also being extremely critical. So there's things that we can do as individuals or things that we obviously need to do as a community. I think, again, shocking to hear about the extent of poverty that's becoming apparent in healthcare, and access to healthcare and preventative measures is going to be more and more challenging when people don't have the resources, or they don't believe that they have the resources to be able to be healthier. I think that's extremely concerning. So thank you so much to Dr. Gent and Rachel for coming onto the program today and sharing a little bit of information about some of the things. Now, can we expect to see some policy decisions around this information? I mean, at this point, you're obviously educating the general public about what some of these findings are. From the perspective now of the policymakers, what are you guys looking at potentially changing?
Well, we're selling it to the policymakers as well as the public.
Yes. Okay.
These data are for everybody.
Yes.
Rachel and myself, we don't own it. This is the public's data. It's accessible to them. It's there to make decisions from. There are some of those decisions rest with individuals and how they want to see their lives. There's some that rest with, the Caymanian institutions. Even if we don't think of things like fast food franchises institutions, they really are, and what they want to do because they see themselves as responsible, responsible for keeping their customers healthier and happier. Makes the sense in the long term because if they live longer, they spend more money with you. It's also, but there's a lot there for the policymakers. Some things about how we provide certain elements of healthcare are clearly there. Whether or not we go for a nice clear food labeling system, which I would hope you do. Whether people want to use financial measures to be able to to be able to make some of the healthier foods more accessible. There's a lot there for them, and we have given some presentations to lots of healthcare workers and the like, and we're there for any minister to come and talk to us about these, and we do. I mean, I've had, Rachel and myself were invited to caucus to talk about this. Got a great reception, lots of really interested people. Because this is across government. It's not Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health can gather this data, can interpret it, can give advice about policy, but lots of people in government have got to come together to understand that, and we'll be giving a big presentation across government in 2 weeks' time, is it, Rachel?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I won't be here, but I've already recorded my piece, so they'll be getting me virtually to talk about these, and because I'm sure that other parts of government are doing things, but if things are brought together as a more cohesive whole, they'll be more effective. And I know people in education are interested. I know people in, sports are interested, and so on. There's lots of, it's unfair me picking a couple out because we do get people from other ministries coming talking to us about things. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that meeting in 2 weeks' time, and whether or not we can energize people to be looking at this data being properly put to use. It was hard-won data. Rachel, her team, everybody else who went and got it, who contributed freely all of their information and welcomed them to their house. This is hard-won data. It must be used.
And we've already mentioned, from our ministry perspective, we're looking at this HEARTS program that a lot of Caribbean countries have taken on and are seeing really good successes with. So that's something that we're engaging with actively for the next year. We're really looking to see how can we take really meaningful steps to develop policy and programs that's sustainable. It was great to have the survey done in 2012, but coming in and trying to understand what's happened since. I know that people were critical and not happened off the back. So rather than try and hit everything in one go, we're trying to start with priorities and tackle one thing at a time and try and bring some meaningful change following these results. So that's where we're starting out in our ministry, but we're trying to engage all the other groups at the same time. As Jen says, we can't work in silos, and great work is already happening. We just need to make sure that the health perspective is also incorporated in that. Things we mentioned in the report, things like the impact of alcohol and driving accidents, that has a huge health aspect there as well with alcohol consumption. So we need to feed into all of these discussions with that too.
All right, we do have a caller who's on the line. Caller, question or comment this morning?
Good morning.
Morning.
Are there any, do you have any information on whether there are farmers that feed their cows, their goats, their sheep, whatever, with grass alone instead of feeding them grain? Because grain isn't really the natural diet of those animals. Plus, that has health consequences for us as humans who consume the meat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything on? I mean, I think we're going to.
I can't answer as to what farmers here are feeding their cattle and the like, but you do make a good point that there's got to be responsible husbandry to make sure there's a good quality product at the end, and in particular, the kind of areas that we're very interested, concerned about, and where those growth stimulants and inappropriate antibiotic use. But yeah, feeding practice, I'm afraid that's a bit out of my area of skills. I have done an awful lot in the past, working with the Department of Environment and Food in the UK on various aspects, but feeding a goat is not one I can put my hand on my heart and say I can give best advice about.
It's not so much about what's available to feed the cattle as opposed to, because you see government has policies about farming.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the size of this island pushes us in the direction of corn feeding our cattle, which is not really the best for us as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the perspective of the formulation of policy, with the health of humans being the focus here, what
I do take the point. I think realistically, what we've got to say is we're starting from a point at the present time that a lot of our food is unhealthy. You're coming from a point which I have every sympathy with, is can we go to a point where everything is perfect and we're eating the very best? Now, to be honest, so many people are eating so much of the very worst at the minute. We need to shift and move and move and move. Now, I'm really supportive of the fact that that as far as possible in Cayman, we grow as much and we farm as much as possible. Apart from anything else, it's important food security. We look at things where there might, when like the big dock strike on the east coast of the US, affecting imports, things like that. So security is incredibly important, but also the quality will go up if we get local, because people will see what is happening, what goes on about the growing manufacturing and everything else, and that's an important driver.
Okay, caller.
Just one more comment is that when it comes to trying to eat more plant-based, the problem with a plant-based diet is because it has a lower caloric element. You have to eat more of it, and it's having to eat more is where it gets expensive, because calories is only one element. You need to have the other micronutrients, like you need your minerals and vitamins and stuff that you need to get from the food. So the nutritional element is the far more important one, which also causes me to raise the issue of when we think about how things are farmed here, we do it in the traditional way in which we're actually pulling the required minerals out of the ground for the nutritional element of the food. Those farming practices, I think, really needs to be looked at.
Okay.
Especially when you're talking about hydroponic stuff like that.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you're making a really good point about nutrition. about, and nutrition isn't just about calories. It's really important that we get the right vitamins, everything else in, and you should not need to ever visit a pharmacy to buy vitamins if your diet is right. And the problem that we can see coming through these data, if people are not having enough fruit and vegetables, they'll be missing out on some very, very important of those micronutrients, which are mainly in vitamin class nutrients. And so that's another good reason that we need to shift diet, because a fix of, and again, see so often doctors prescribing nutritional supplements in the form of vitamins and so on. That should not be necessary ever. Vitamin D possibly, but other things, no. They all come through a healthy diet, and you should need no supplementation if the quality of the food and the balance of food is right.
And in fact, when it comes to vitamins, I know there are people who spend money on these things. And funny enough, I have actually seen new research that says you're really wasting your money. Not only are you wasting your money, but there's data that's showing that people who take supplements and take vitamins are likely to die sooner than people who don't. I'm not quite sure why, but there you have it. So something else to consider.
Unnecessary, I would agree with. Whether or not it's killing people, I mean, there are some very, very toxic vitamins. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it might just be that they have the mindset that because they're taking supplements, the rest of their lifestyle goes to hell. I mean, we don't know the why, but there is a correlation there that recently came out in a survey. So there you have it. So yes, wow. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Really, really appreciate the information. Super, super helpful information.
Yeah, pleasure. No worries. It's great to come back after we were on here begging everyone to take part. It's just really nice to be able to complete that loop. Say a huge thank you. And I hope people can also see how valuable the information is. And we'll be able to enjoy looking at it more when it's live in December.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks. And folks, go on the website. Just give us the website details again on where people can actually find the survey results.
Yeah, so it's www.gov.ky/steps.
All right, go check it out. It starts with information, starts with being knowledgeable, and hopefully we can all start to make some better decisions as a result. Thanks very much to Rachel, Cayman's epidemiologist, and Dr. Gent, the CMO. You guys have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
All righty. Okay, so some good information there. Thanks to Denny for that question as well. I think Denny's certainly thinking about it at a much deeper level. We've got baby steps that we need to take. And what is so funny is I actually said that I would love to see our MPs take a more serious position with pushing for health and wellness more, which means that they themselves need to, have a look at some of their own habits. Very few of them would I put in the even remotely healthy-ish category. So lead by example, honey chill. All right, let's get, we're going to go out in the field now. You guys are going to love some of the things that I'm going to be doing here. Coming back from vacation, I feel so refreshed. The brain is working a little bit better, although I still need to get more sleep at night. But let's take it out on the road now. We're going to go to Ada, who's bringing us this break-in traffic alert. Let's see what's going on out there.
Traffic news just coming in this morning. There's a serious accident in front of Palm Heights by the Hyatt Bridge. Exclusive CMR sources revealed that the accident involves a tourist bus and a rental car.
Yes, sir. Take that. Y'all are laughing like, who the hell is Ada? How did she get? I know, it's all modern technology, folks. Absolutely love it. Shall I repeat that for you guys so you can listen to it one more time? Come on, just humor me.
Traffic news just coming in this morning. There's a serious accident in front of Palm Heights by the Hyatt Bridge. Exclusive CMR sources revealed that the accident involves a tourist bus and a rental car.
All right, folks, there you go. And of course, my apologies to radio listeners. It seems like the radio feed had dropped out yet again. Ugh, my goodness. I guess let me play a little something to have it kick back in. And then we've got about 20 minutes left in the show. So hold on one quick second for me. Yes, I tell you what, technology is great when it's working. All right, hold on.
I hear the people talking. What are they talking about? This world's gone crazy, and I'm trying to find a way out. Nobody knows where we're going, or if we're going at all.
All right, I'm told that the radio's kicked back in. Wonderful. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, right. Everybody good? Okay. For radio listeners, let me advise you of Ada, who's on location right now on West Bay Road, what she had to report. Listen up, radio folks. I think you missed it.
Traffic news just coming in this morning. There's a serious accident in front of Palm Heights by the Hyatt Bridge. Exclusive CMR sources revealed that the accident involves a tourist bus and a rental car.
Look at that accident. Oh my gosh. Tourist and a rental car. Tourist bus, and a rental car. So they may have been going in the wrong direction. I don't know exactly how this one happened, but there you have it. What a hot mess, folks. Doesn't look good. And it looks like the bus is full of people as well. Looks like it has a whole bunch of people in there. Yeah, be careful out there, folks. You got to drive for you and the other person these days. You know how it is. Got to be on the constant lookout. So hopefully everyone's okay. We haven't had any reports of any injuries. So we will certainly update you guys if and when we are aware of any further details. The car looks like it got a good lick. I bet you the car was coming out from a side place, like maybe Palm Heights or something. They were pulling out and they probably looked in the wrong direction. You know, tourists do that a lot because they're just used to, looking the other way. Yeah, kind of crazy. All right. Hopefully everybody's okay. I'm sure Ada will be there telling us in real time exactly what is happening. Let me just see here. All right. Odell, I see you in the conversation the last couple of days. I trust that you are feeling better these days and you're on the mend. So good to see you here contributing to the discussion. And Odell said earlier that he was actually really enjoying the information being provided. Inspiring, it's not so easy to get a Caymanian voice. I know y'all think that that AI just makes up stuff, but you know what? Maybe some of y'all can volunteer to go to these AI tools and say, copy my voice because I'm what a traditional Caymanian sounds like. I'm actually probably not the best model for that at all because I'm a little bit of mixed up here and there and everywhere. But no, there is no Caymanian voice in AI. Really, there isn't. But like I said, these tools are built out from people, like real people, contributing to them. So all Caymanians go to these AI tools and say, use my voice. You want to hear what a Caymanian sounds like? And they don't really, listen, I know Caymanians are like, well, our voices are very, very unique. These AI tools are not quite as unique as that. You can't say, give me a Southern accent from Mississippi or whatever. They're going to be like, listen, run-of-the-mill American. You know what I'm saying? British, Spanish. So there's not quite the in-depth information that you may think yet that is available. But the more people that participate, certainly, I think that's possible, I guess. So yeah, there's no, and the beauty of this, Odell said it too, Cayman accent, please. The beauty of this is that what I was able to do as I was doing other stuff and multitasking, getting that done. How would I do that if I had to record that myself? I mean, that's what these tools allow you to do. Get more done, less resources, less time, but still be as efficient as you possibly can. Now, we've been getting a lot of feedback on the new news segment. Somebody said on yesterday's program, they said, let me just read it. They said, your news is far superior to Radio Cayman or number one, laughing out loud. Love it. I may need to quit my day job and come and do the news with you. I had to chuckle, honey child. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So we survived another little brush up again from
yes,
the weather.
Yes, my dear. It keeps coming at us.
Yes. There's a couple of things that I will say, and I will make it quite short.
Yes.
The weather station.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, maybe even before yesterday, but yesterday morning, I think it's around 7 o'clock, they gave out the weather forecast.
Mm-hmm.
And by 5 or 6 o'clock, listening all day, it was on the same thing from yesterday morning, no changes.
Oh.
And there was a visitor talking to me, saying, well, when it's going to arrive? I said, no, sir, this is gone. He said, but we're like in a hurry to get back to our apartment. I said, no, you're going to be okay. Sunday, What are we doing? You can't even get a proper weather station in order. Something happened and you don't even have the respect or the concern to say, well, you're going to shut it down if something goes wrong. You're going to let that recording keep going for maybe 12, 24 hours or something. That's not good enough. And then you got all these high power people, oh, the storm is this, and we're going to Little Cayman and Cayman Black. And you don't have a proper communication for the people to listening and tell them what's happening to them.
Well, I'm shocked to hear that because, I was told that the premiere was on her favorite station yesterday, keeping everybody updated on what was happening. So now that you're saying that to me, I don't know what to make of it, to be honest.
On her favorite station must be the favorite station, but not the weather station.
Oh.
I mean, anybody that listens can tell you that this is not fake or a joke that I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll flip that page now, but let's talk quickly about health. We are, or people, not exactly me, let's say we are consuming anywhere from 85 to 100% of nothing but processed food. We are not getting anything. You might go to the grocery store and get a couple of tomatoes or your vegetables. That is so fertilized and chemical fed. It is not really healthy. If we are to survive and prolong our lives, we better get some topsoil or red mold under our fingernails and go in our back garden and start to do something, because we are so, let's say, foreignized or Americanized. You think going into the grocery store and buying this, we are not getting any real benefit much from what we consuming. Even the meat, taking and putting all kind of color in it to make it look fresh. What are we doing? And we can do better than we're doing as a Caribbean island. We got the soil and everything. Why not? Let's do something.
Yeah. I tell you what, caller, a lot of it comes down to willpower. I mean, I'm not so sure that our people are as motivated to live a healthier lifestyle as we should be. There was something I was watching recently. There's this whole thing about exercise so many times, and sometimes like, oh my God, I don't have time. And there was a survey that was done, some research that was done that basically said, listen, every hour and a half, get up from your desk. If you have a desk job, get up and move for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and cumulatively it adds up to what you need to be doing. So we need tips and tricks and how to break it down. Somebody just said to me, and I think this is fantastic because this now is the power of community coming together. Someone just said, Sandy, I'm willing to help. You have such an amazing reach. Let me just read their question about how we can help each other. And I love this idea, in fact, and it kind of goes along a little bit with the cooking show. but eventually we're going to launch. But this person says, interesting session, gave me an idea. Cheap, healthy meals that you can prepare at home, Cayman edition. You can do a short series. I'm happy to help. I meal prep every week and I shop around for my food. I have a good amount of practice doing the calorie count too. So, there are people who are doing it. And I take my hats off to this individual for not only saying, hey, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also willing to help and teach other people how to do it. Because sometimes we don't do the things that we should be doing because we don't know how. And we're like afraid to ask, because, oh man, I don't want to look stupid or I don't want to look whatever. So we take the easy steps to grabbing a bite to eat and all these other things. So I love meal prepping, and I think this is a fantastic idea. And I'm on board. I'm willing to come to your kitchen and see how you meal prep. And, there's a lot of people who are great with shopping in a budget. There's a lot of people with cooking healthy in a budget. And so why not utilize some of those resources to help each other and to teach each other?
Yes, it is so correct. And, we get into air condition and it's so comfortable that, oh my God, we don't want to get out of that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a bit of humidity and I think, but go outside for a couple of minutes and sweat a little bit and get some grease out of your pores or do something, right? It is something to think about, and I don't know, but this was a Japanese guy. He was like just over 100 years old. And it was this crowd of people and they looked at him and he was so refreshed and so refined and looked so young. And they said, sir, you said you were 100 years old? Yes, I am. He said, no, you tell that to somebody else, not to us. The man pulled out his passport, said, look at this. Said, really? Say, well, what is the secret you got?
Mm-hmm.
He said, the secret is get your exercise, go take a walk every day. Say, keep walking, keep moving. That's the answer. The more you sit down, like you said a few minutes ago, that is a killer in air condition. You have to circulate and get your blood and everything else going. So
yes.
I just thought what I said would be helpful, and have yourself a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yep, everything helps, and a little bit. Sometimes we think we have to make big sweeping changes. And let me just adjust this camera just a tops. I can assure you that every little bit helps. So do what you can to do something. All right. Yes, I love that suggestion. So we'll do our part here. CMR is here for you. Let me see what else is coming in. Yes. Okay. So let me just look at some news headlines from around the world today. There's a case that we are looking at. And we are going to, oh gosh, poor California and fire again. Lord Jesus. They have so many wildfires. It's crazy. All right, let's talk about poor Cuba for a little bit. Oh, those poor people in Cuba. They obviously got hit by Category 3 Rafael yesterday. It was starting to hit them, I think, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Cuba just a couple of weeks ago, as you heard from our news segment this morning, had an issue with another storm and the power grid basically being knocked out. Well, it is again today that this, what they're terming is a fierce Category 3 storm, ripped across the island and knocked out the country's power grid, aka Hurricane Rafael. And so incredibly sad that those poor people who are truly poor, I don't know what more they can take, but my goodness, wow. So huge waves lashed at Havana's shores, sharp winds, rain whipped across the historic cityscape, leaving trees littered on the flooded roads, and much of the city was in dark and deserted. And I know a lot of Caymanians have interests and family and so forth in Cuba. So this is incredibly sad. So this is such an unfortunate situation, but hopefully your families. I haven't seen any reports yet of reported deaths, so I don't know if there are any or to what significance. But we'll certainly bring that to you once we have that information. Now the storm is going to be headed potentially to the U.S. as it heads out in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's potentially going to southern Texas. And of course, the National Hurricane Center in Miami is going to be keeping an eye on this. It may be near the northern Mexico and southern Texas border. So still a pretty strong storm as a Category 2 hurricane this morning, Thursday morning. And it was located about 180 miles west-northwest of Havana. Maximum sustained winds of 105 miles per hour, and was moving northwest at 9 miles per hour. Ay. Look, we made the AP News. It says earlier this week, Rafael brushed past Jamaica and battered the Cayman Islands, down in trees and power lines and unleashing heavy flooding in some areas. I must say that here in Grand Cayman, we did all right, although I think we're still getting some rain today. I haven't heard much about Jamaica. I know that obviously, Jamaica is prone to flooding just like we are. And they have the added complication of potential slides. What do you call them? You guys know, slides from the mountainside. But I haven't really heard anything much in terms of like injuries or anything like that. So hopefully Jamaica fared okay. Little Cayman, power is being restored. Big shout out to CUC. Thank you so much. They came forward and said that they are standing by, ready to help and assist with the restoration of power in the Sister Islands. So although that is not, that's not their customer base, that's DART, they still said, never mind, we're here for you, honey child. We've got crews ready and people willing to assist in any way that we can. Mudslides, thank you, Shaka Zul. Sometimes the brain is just not. It's like, I know the word, but it's just not coming out. Marjorie says we can't plant stuff in my pots and yard because so many stray chickens and iguanas are back in my yard anyway. I planted pumpkin, pawpaw, melon. One iguana ate them all down in one night. Girl, call the iguana cullers. There are people who will come and cull for you. And chickens too. Chickens are a real nuisance. I got to tell you, they are a pain in the rear end. When Marlon was planting stuff, you're absolutely right. The second you plant it, is like they're sitting there watching you. And they know, a seed is going into the ground. Here they come picking it out. So we did put up some like fencing kind of like towards the front. And by the way, chicken or birds, I think a lot of times we forget this. They do fly. They don't fly as often as other birds. They tend to stay on the ground, but they can fly. And so sometimes he's still like, what's that chicken doing in my yard? But it has decreased them significantly because we basically blocked them from being able to walk into the backyard where the garden is. They would have to fly. They don't seem to like to fly. I don't know what it is about chickens, but they only seem to fly when they're in a lot of duress. Then they take flight and they go, or it's when they're sleeping at night, I guess they go up into the trees. But yeah, so we put up a little like fence thing and that kind of like, put a barrier between them and the garden. And so the garden was able to flourish a little bit more. So you got to get creative, have somebody come out and call them. The iguanas, they like to eat all kind of stuff. We had one eating a Jamaican apple tree, and man, he was getting so fat off those apples. And call Denny. He has a culling license. Eddie Thompson. Yeah. Eddie Thompson. No, Eddie, not Eddie Thompson. Eddie McLean. Sorry, wrong Eddie. Eddie McLean also culls iguanas. We have a couple, which means they're reemerging. I've seen this year for the first time in a number of years. And I think COVID didn't help because nobody was out culling. We have a number of teenage iguanas around the place. And sometimes I see them crawling up the windows. In fact, one day we saw 3 or 4 iguanas in my yard. And I was like, hey, chill. Come on by and grab them. So I think the government needs to push the culling program, and there should be a resurgence of that. Somebody says we have someone who deals with chickens. Yes, there are people who will cull chickens, and in fact, uh-huh. All right. So, in fact, there is a guy who that's his job. I think he gets paid by the head, and organizations like DART and others use him on their property because otherwise you'd be overrun by the chickens and you'd be able to get nothing else done. Faith says 2 persons washed away in a pickup that are missing. Is that in Jamaica? Oh my gosh, really? Oh, wow. That's crazy. Live Happy says, I was thinking about starting a business that uses iguana meat to produce local dog food. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess people eat iguana, so your dog, I don't know how healthy that is for dogs, but check and see if the market exists for it first before you start making the product. I wouldn't be feeding Zeus iguana meat, sorry. He gets like a plant-based organic diet. So I don't know. But I think some dogs may like iguana meat. I'm not sure. But there's a business. I'm sure you can use their skin to make products and stuff as well. Good morning, Miss Lucille. Says a very good morning, Sandy. As much as some of us are so wicked, God is still watching over us and giving a lot of blessings. Love always. El Rey says it tastes like chicken. Everything tastes like chicken that you can't define, I think is what people always say. I had iguana soup once. Man, it was all right. I mean, but I can't bring myself to eat them on a regular basis. I couldn't imagine. So, yeah, just not for me. Some of y'all love curry iguana. I think that's the thing, like in Trinidad and so forth. Somebody's looking for the contact details for the chicken man. All right, hold on. We actually have a neighbor. I need to speak to him. That he does it for our neighborhood, but he doesn't really do it for. Although I think he does have a license. But lately I've been noticing we've had a lot of chickens coming back in the area. And we actually have someone in the neighborhood who I know feeds them sometimes. I'm not reporting them because we know you'd get in trouble. But one day I saw her feeding them. I'm like, why are you feeding the chickens? She's like, oh, it's just unused rice. I'm just going to throw it in the bushes and here comes all the chickens. And I thought to myself, well, that might be one way of killing them. Put something special in the rice. But then I didn't want to do that because then you have all these chicken bodies everywhere, stinking up the place. And ew, that would be more of a mess. But yeah, oh God, the chickens, listen, I know we've kind of got used to them. The visitors and tourists always find it so weird. I actually had one message me this morning and he said, what was his questions? He says, we have some chickens visitors in the backyard this morning. Assume that's fine. We will not feed them. And I said, oh, please don't feed them. We heard that there was a big fine for feeding them. So we'll definitely not do that. Yeah. I mean, just don't feed them. So yeah, not a good thing. Okay. So our guy said he's going out this weekend. Let me ask him. So he was talking about there's another location that was requesting his services. So let me inquire. Okay. Iguana done in curry with coconut milk. Yep. I've heard of this dish. Haven't tried iguana, but heard because they only eat fruits and plants, the meat is good. Depends on your definition of good. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy.
Morning, darling. How you doing?
Oh, I am doing fine.
Good.
I am listening to your show and enjoying it.
Thank you so much.
I am also wondering how smart we are when it comes to consuming food.
Uh-huh.
I caught the part about the gentleman that called and was talking about how to eat, what to eat, exercise, and all that stuff, and all this imported crop that we are importing, and it's not beneficial to the body. How about banning importing chicken? Let's eat the good stuff. People talk about don't feed them. We're going to need them, you know. Chicken lovers eating the wrong chicken. The best chicken to eat is the ones that are here. That's what we knew about when we were little children growing up.
Yes.
So even think about poisoning them or not feeding them. The law, the law want to, wouldn't you say the law, the government make laws to, I don't know how to phrase this, but it would be like, okay, ban cisterns to get you to hook up on the city water. Similar to that. Don't feed the chicken. They're not good for you. Eat the ones that we import. So you can get sick and go to the doctor and let the pharmacist make money. Just saying, okay? Think about it. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we eat. If you go be importing chicken that is made in a farm, fed in the farm, 2 days old, 16 pounds, come on, that should tell you something. The guy that called and talked about putting colors in the meat and stuff. We had beef once a year, and that was when they kill a cow, and we call it Christmas beef. That was good stuff. All right. Let me go a little further now. When I travel to Cuba and eat corn, I'm eating a corn. It reminds me of when Dad used to plant his corn in the little property we had in Breezy Castle. Real corn. Tastes like corn. The cucumbers taste like cucumbers. Tomatoes taste like tomatoes. Everything that I ate in Cuba that is produced there tastes real. The bananas are real. The plantains are real. When we import and buy and cut it open and look at it, it's something wrong.
Okay.
This genetically engineered food is what's killing people. But like you say, when you're lazy and stupid and whatever, you pay for it in the long run.
That's for sure.
Eat the chicken, guys.
Yeah,
that reduce the numbers.
That's certainly one way. Somebody in the comment section said, what? The Filipinos not eating chickens? I mean, they're not the only ones that eat chicken. So looks
they're
like
smart. They're eating them and saving money too.
Yeah, we all need to step up. Well, they can come in my neighborhood. Anybody who wants to eat chickens can freely come in my neighborhood, and I will help.
Of course. I know a gentleman that butchers every now and then and sell. And let me tell you something. I ate some of that stuff, and that's real chicken. Let me tell you, you get all the good collagen when you chew out the bone. You get the real deal when you're eating free-range chicken. Of course, you have to like put them in a corner and get them washed out with them. We used to put castor oil in the water. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, and do it right. And it's more beneficial to the body. Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, somebody says, thank you so much, caller. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one, babe.
You too. All right, dear. This person says chickens eat everything. Irvelyn says they even eat the worm granules I put in my grass for the worms. Yeah, you know, chickens are scavengers. They're land scavengers. I'm surprised Seventh-day Adventist hasn't, because they don't believe in eating unclean meat. And I'm surprised that chickens are not on the list, because God knows, if you don't have them contained and feeding them good stuff, just like the beef, I guess, if you're not feeding the cows the proper stuff, chickens are scavengers. They eat each other. I mean, hello, I've seen them. And it's like they eat whatever. They don't care. So I don't know how flavorful. I mean, I don't know how this works. I mean, I do know back in the day that's how Caymanians sustained themselves. You just grabbed a chicken out of your yard, broke the chicken's neck, and I've seen at least once or twice in my life a chicken being defeathered. It's not the most pleasant thing to watch, but that's what people did, because back in those days, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have money to go to grocery stores to buy anything, and you use what you could use. So are we having to return to those days? Well, the caller has a point. It would certainly help control the population. There's a lot of them out there. I'm sure we could be eating chickens for years and they're still, you know. But how do you know which chickens to eat? Do you eat all of them? Like I'm not a chicken connoisseur like that, so I don't know how this works. Do they have to be of a particular age? A type of plumpness? Is there something as good chicken meat versus bad chicken meat? Like, I don't know. Y'all, you have to educate me on this. Shaka Zulu says Cayman's local chickens are pasture chickens, FYI. Meaning what exactly? They're being fed something special? Ms. Morna, good morning, says, I'm not saying that they can't be a problem, but we all came here and find them here as part of God's creation, just saying birds, bees, roaches, etc. I don't think, well, I don't know how the chickens got here, but I don't think they were roaming quite like this. I think we have somehow made the problem worse as human beings. And I mean, yeah, they're like everything else, but that don't mean I want roaches all over my house just because they're God's creation. They better not step past the front door, because if I see one, you're dead. Just saying. Just like frogs. Frogs are God's creations too, but please stay away from my front porch, because I got to start pouring some salt on y'all. Stay out of my way. Miss Marjorie has 15 of them in her yard. I'm going to send you some information, Miss Marjorie, for someone that you can call that should be able to help you with that. Anybody else wants to know who to call for chickens? All right, let me just see. So does shrimp and lobster. They eat everything. Yep. I see these children eating What children are you referring to? Eating cockroaches? What children? Like what? Chickens eating a natural diet and a product of the environment, pastured. Natural diet. Does that mean eating each other is also part of a natural diet? I don't know. Okay, honey, chill. Let me see here now. Australia plans a social media ban for children under 16. Ooh, that's an interesting headline. Germany, ruling German government coalition collapsed after Chandler, what's his name? Schloss fires finance minister. So we're not the only ones in a hot mess when it comes to politics. Somebody keeps calling me from Jamaica. Let's see what this lady wants. I don't know who this is. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Miss Sandra. Please, I'm begging you to call me back. It is important. This morning, Sandra.
Can you tell me what it's about? I mean, I might not be the right person, so sometimes.
You are the right person. I've been listening to you from in Cayman now. I get caught up in Jamaica and I am sick medically. And I was living in Cayman. I am married to a Caymanian. And I left all alone.
Okay. I'm still on the radio, so can I call you if I'm on the radio?
Yes, you can, ma'am. Yes, you can, of course.
All right. Let me call you back then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, dear. I'm assuming she needs me to call her back because she can't afford the call. So, all right. Let's see what's going on. I don't know what this is all about.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
good morning.
Sandra, good morning.
Yes,
morning. I love to hear my story.
Okay.
I've been shying away from calling you because I know it is a cold, hard truth.
Yeah, well, yes.
Oh, boy.
What's going on?
Huh?
Well, tell me what's going on.
I was living in Cayman for I remember, I don't remember. I am sick. Anyway, I am sick. I get a stroke from Corona over there. And now I was Corona infected. Corona. I caught Corona. And I get a stroke from there and the doctor didn't know. So I've been suffering from a stroke until now.
So when did you let me just try to understand, when did you said you were sick with Corona. When did that happen?
2020, ma'am.
Oh, so you think you have long haul COVID?
What you call it?
Long haul COVID. Like if you've been sick since then because of the coronavirus, that's called long haul COVID. So were you working in Cayman at the time?
I was working in Cayman. At the time, I was doing self-employed.
Say that again for me. You were what?
I was doing self-employed.
Self-employed.
Yes, my husband did a business license, and I took that, and I take advantage of that. I go for it.
So, your husband had status or what?
Yes, man, he's a Caymanian.
Okay. Now he's a Caymanian, as in Caymanian, or he has status?
Caymanian.
All right. So that means then I needed to ask that question because that means he's still in Cayman?
Yes, man, he is.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So tell me what's going on? What's the problem then? Are you still married to him?
Because I cannot work and I don't have no one to take care of me.
But where's your husband? Are you still married to him?
Yes, ma'am. I am still married.
Okay.
But I'm left out.
Left out. Oh.
Left out.
That doesn't sound good.
Nobody has been taking care of me. I went to the NAU for the insurance and they only give me like 9 months worth, but that couldn't cover me.
But you said you're in Jamaica.
Yes, I have to because I come to Jamaica now to find out my health issue because I couldn't. In Jamaica, I find out that I got a stroke because they sent me down here to do a surgery. From Cayman to down here, I come and get the surgery done, and I went up back. I came up back, but I didn't even know that I have a stroke. It's Jamaica here find out that I have a stroke there. Right? And when they find out that I have a stroke here, I come back up and I get the therapy, but I come to know when I come back down to come down and do some sort of research, and then the therapist that they have to tell me that it is too late for me to do therapy. Like I have to do some private therapy, but I didn't get the whole of the private therapy. Anyway, I can't even afford food, much less therapy. Anyway.
All right. So let me ask you a question. How old are you roughly?
I am now 50, ma'am.
You're only 50 years old. So you're still pretty young. How long were you married to this Caymanian husband of yours?
If it's not 7, if it is not 7 years, going 8 months, 8 years.
So you guys have been married for a while. And this is I hate to ask this question, but unfortunately, in Cayman, I have to ask it. This was a real relationship. Yes. I mean, it is the cold hard truth. So this was a real relationship, like the two of you were, at least in like with each other, in lust and love, something. And the two of you dated and...
We was living together, but it wasn't paying me Miss Sandra.
So was this kind of an arranged situation? Was he just looking for a warm body, or what was the deal here?
I don't know what he was looking for, but I know what I was looking for.
Okay.
I was looking for a relationship.
Okay. So you knew him sometime before you got married then?
Yes, ma'am. That's it. I knew him quite a few years before.
All right.
Because I used to do his mother. No, I used to do his sister and his niece. Yeah, that's how he come to know me. Right? I will get then from 2013. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he got to know you. He pursued you. You agreed to get married. At what point did he start ignoring you? After the wedding?
No, ma'am, before the wedding, because we was together before.
He started ignoring you before the wedding?
No. He started ignoring me when I got the stroke. From the stroke,
so once you got sick.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh, what a horrible man.
I get all the complaining in a relationship. I get that.
Oh, wow.
He stop work. and the church have to be giving me food. People have to give me food. I couldn't get food to eat, much less. So I go to NAU and I beg and get some insurance because he was supposed to sign the NAU form for me, and he did not, ma'am.
Lord Jesus. How long have you been back in Jamaica now?
From March, ma'am, because I've been down here because I can't afford to be. I can't afford to come back.
And he's not going to send you a ticket back, doesn't sound like.
No, ma'am, no. I suspected he had moved on, ma'am.
Oh, really?
He sent me a picture. He said he came in the house, and I said, send me a picture. And when I see a girl clothes hung up, and I noticed not him sister clothes because him sister don't wear dress. So I suspected he had moved on.
Lord Jesus, that's not a good.
He even text my phone and said I should delete his number, but I did not.
What? What kind of husband is that?
Yeah, he said I should delete his number because he won't be.
Oh my God!
Something like that. He said I should delete it, but I did not because I don't even.
But you're still lawfully married to each other, yes?
Yes, ma'am. We are lawful under God, under man. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what do you think I can help you with? How can I help?
I don't know. If I could get some help, to get the doctor. When I was up there, the doctor said I have some heart. She said that they do a thing like a radiology, X-ray something, and so they see a cyst on my kidney. So I've been sick with my kidney now. It's the mercy of God why I'm alive. One time he even called me and he said, "Oh, she's alive." Like he expect me to die. Because he know that I have the heart problem because of all of the issue I'm telling you is from over there, chairman.
So your husband has some responsibility to bear here with your current situation. That's why when you get married, it says for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. Right?
Yes, ma'am. Oh my God. Thank you, ma'am.
So he has some legal obligations that maybe he's not aware of. So tell me something.
I think he's fully aware, but he ignored because he gave me a cold shoulder when I am sick.
Yes.
That's the time he turned him back.
Well, this is $1 million question. Who's your husband?
Elvis Ebanks.
Elvis Ebanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Elvis Ebanks. What does he do for work? I don't know who he is.
Ma'am, at the time, I don't know what he do because he does not work.
He doesn't work?
No, he doesn't work. He stopped work from the day I took Miss Sandra and stopped work.
What kind of work did he used to do?
Construction. He used to do plumbing and electrical. But then when I get sick, he just, in a matter of years, he just paid it in my terms.
So it can't be that he's going hungry and not,
Sandra, he's a fat man. He's a fat man, and
he's a what?
I am getting fat.
A fat man?
F-A-T. Yes, he's big and fat. He's not get angry. He's not hungry.
Oh. All right. Well, can we call your husband? You say you still have his number handy?
I don't know his number, Sandra. I have to look in the phone.
Well, we need to speak to your husband. So we're going to need you to find that number. You said you didn't delete it. So what you're going to have to do.
I did not.
Yeah, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to send me his number. You have WhatsApp on this phone?
I don't have Wi-Fi, ma'am, because I am just in a world. I don't have WhatsApp.
Okay. So, can you look through your phone while you're on the phone?
I cannot see so good, so I have to go on the phone and find my glasses.
All right. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I need you to find the number. Are you able to text, or you want to just give it to me on air? I mean, I don't necessarily want his number.
I will give it to you on here anyhow you want it now.
All right. So I'm going to come off the phone to give you a couple minutes to find his number, and then I'm going to call you back, and you give me the number. We're going to call Elvis and see what he has to say for himself. All right?
Yes,
so I'll give you about 2 minutes to get the number.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. What a hot mess. Listen, there is something in law about your obligations to your spouse. Now, I know some of y'all just want to use people when they're healthy and they can work and bring in a few dollars, but that's not exactly how it works. When you're married to someone, your problem is their problem and their problem is your problem, quite frankly. And if they're having issues financially or with their health or whatever, you have to step up to the plate and be there for them, you know? So she's talking about having to go to NAU for some assistance, and he was even refusing to sign the paperwork. She's only 50 years old, so she's relatively young, but of course she's had some health issues, a stroke, and so on. So let's see what Elvis has to say for himself. Somebody said Elvis has left the building. Johan is so crazy. He said CMR equals radio RJR. CMR equals couples therapy. CMR equals detective agency. CMR equals counseling services. CMR equals debt collection agency. CMR equals divorce court. CMR equals representing. And he puts all the flags there for everybody. Jamaica, Philippines. CU is what? Cuba? GB, Great Britain. Who's BS? What unfortunate country has the initials BS? I don't even know what country that is. US, Canada, TT, HN. HN is which country? Lord have mercy. The landing flight says, how can she get help? It's not looking good. She only has that one connection with whom she's married. Mercy. She called you out, Mr. Elvis. Lady, he does not want anything to do with you. Well, he may think he can do that. And when you're finished with someone and you don't want anything to do with them, there's something called a divorce. So what you do is you go and you get a divorce. And even then, the court will hold Elvis responsible. That's why the things like spousal support, doesn't sound like they have any kids, but that's why the court will still hold you legally responsible for a spouse in the right circumstances. So Elvis might find that this is a situation. However, based on what she said about Elvis, sounds like Elvis is not even working, although she said he's fat. So he's not working, but clearly he's eating. And he sounds like he's got him a new woman already too. El Rey said, did she pay him for the marriage and now that money finished? So he has no more use for her. That's why I was trying to ascertain at the onset the nature of this relationship, because it makes a difference, right? So if this was a marriage of convenience, obviously, when the cookie jar run dry, those people move on in those types of situations. But she claims that she was in it for all the right reasons, and that she loves Elvis, but it doesn't sound like Elvis loves her anymore, if he ever did. Hot mess. Oh, shoot. Is my appointment at 10 or 11 o'clock? Oh, damn. I got an appointment this morning. Hold on. Ay. I think my appointment's actually at 10 o'clock. Ross. I might have to call her back tomorrow. Trying to jail. Hold on. 1 second. Let me call. Let me make a call about my appointment time. I thought it said 11. 1867. 1 second. This is an important appointment I can't miss. Hi, good morning. Sandra Hill here. I see in my calendar I have an appointment with you, but I thought it was 11 o'clock. And as I'm looking a little bit closer at my calendar, it actually says 10 o'clock. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Can I make it for 10:30-ish if I head out right now? No, tell me where you're at exactly. Yes, uh-huh. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yes. All right, darling. Okay, no problem. I'll come to you now. Thank you, dear. All right, bye-bye. Child business calls now, I'm gonna have to call her. I'm gonna have to tell her we have to hear her mia story mañana. Cause I gotta go, honey chill. This is about getting my radio station set up, so I gotta get things done.
Sandra.
Yes, ma'am. Listen, I just realized I have a 10 o'clock appointment. I was looking at the calendar wrong this morning. So I have to call you back tomorrow. What's today? Thursday? Boy, I think I have.
That would be good because the phone that is number in, because I'm having some issue with the phone problem. And then the phone that the number is in, it is dead.
All right.
And
so I tell you,
I have to get it charged.
Yeah. So I tell you what, I'll call you later to get the number, and then we'll try to figure out exactly what is what. We probably won't be able to really address this until one day next week.
Okay.
All right. But now that I have an idea of what's going on, I'll be in touch.
Okay, Mom. Thank you very much.
Thanks too, my dear. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks.
All right. So everybody doesn't know the Elvis. No, we looking for him. All right. So we'll deal with that maybe in Monday's show because we have guests coming on tomorrow, and I've got work to do. We got to get this radio station up and running. So I've got a very, very important meeting this morning that has to happen in relation to that. So lots of moving parts around here, honey child. You all have a fantastic day. Johan, try to behave yourself. He says, any Caymanians named Elvis is an OG. Let that man live his best life. Another guy named Elvis said, Sandy, it ain't me. It's not this Elvis. What a hot mess. All the Elvises in Cayman now getting nervous. All right, folks. See y'all tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.